Hi, I am Johnny Lewis, and I want to thank you for watching my presentation for Module 10, a new role for the Parents Organization. It's a case study. So the summary of the case is that the parents at the school where I'm principal, they have severed their partnership with the national PTA and formed their own group, which means they also are restructuring themselves. They meet with me to share their concerns. They feel there's been a lack of parent involvement and apparently a lack of communication about what goes on at the school. And so they tell me that they have formed several committees for overseeing school policies related to teacher performance, discipline, curriculum, and school evaluation. They want to make policy decisions within the school for all those categories. They want to ask teachers to work at night to talk about what goes on in their classrooms. And they seem uninterested in hearing from me when I try to interject and talk with them um, about my understanding of the way things have been at the school. Here's some legal and ethical issues related to this. Some of these requests made by the parents uh, likely will violate teacher labor contracts and agreements as it relates to the hours that they're expected to work. It also could violate best practices or labor agreements based on how they're to be evaluated um, and the way that they're able to develop curriculum. The data that they request, it's not clear to us what data they request, but because they request committees on discipline and other things, there's a potential for them asking for data that's actually confidential as it relates to IEPs or discipline status or academic standing. Um, the suggestion that the new PTA is going to be involved in evaluating the school, um, there are already several methods in place in our schools to evaluate them. There are standards for the state of Kansas. There are likely vision and mission statements that the schools developed related to their own um, path forward and how they plan to evaluate their progress moving forward. And so clearly, there's a communications issue here between what the parents understand those things to be and what they really are. Uh, but but for the PTA to suggest that it's just going to start evaluating the school based on those things and doing teacher evaluations is a real issue. It's unclear what role, if any, the educators are expected to play in these committees. It kind of sounds like they just have these committees and they're asking for the paperwork. There's a lack of presence or input from the administration, from any teachers in developing this structure and these committees that have been put together. And so the same kind of lack of communication they have felt on one side, it appears that they're kind of creating on another side by not involving any of the educational staff. Um, and so, same kind of thing. This suffers the same fate that they suggest. The principals kind of left them out of the loop on some things, and now they're leaving the principal and staff out of the loop on several things that are really key uh, to the staff being involved in. And in particular, the staff are trained and are aware of different legal issues and things that are important for understanding several of the things that they're asking about. We're also not sure how the majority of the community or other parents feel. We just kind of know about this group of parents. So there's not been any needs assessment done or any perception assessment done to kind of see how everybody else is feeling. This could just be a group of um, parents who kind of have a bee in their bonnet about something and not really like the full picture of the community. There could have been a lot of political things at play, so that's kind of unclear. So here's a synthesis. While there are several things at play, um, it would be easy for me as principal to get defensive or angry or to talk about things that I thought we had done well. But clearly, whatever issues kind of have bubbled up around it now, there clearly seems to be a disconnect in the perception of parent involvement between me as principal and how involved the parents think that they've been. And this really seems to be the heart of the issue and the thing that needs to be addressed. So I need to be able to listen well. I need to be able to own my own mistakes. I have to balance the fact that I'm a trained educator who's aware of different laws and issues that are important and have certain skills with the voices of families who may not be a part of those conversations. I have to think about the voice of my staff, as well as the voice of students and community members and these parents who are speaking with me in order to protect staff and student success. So the people who are key to involve, there's me trying to balance my knowledge of the law as an administrator with parent concerns. There's the PTA chair who we're told is not really interested in hearing from the principal. There's clearly a relationship that needs to be developed and nurtured there. There are students, there's some student privacy issues that could be at play, and student success definitely could be at play. There's faculty. Faculty are, it's being suggested that the PTA is going to observe faculty or evaluate faculty, and that's not really treating them as professional educators. Those aren't educational best practices, and it's likely not what's part of their contract as far as a transparent system for evaluation. The place, the community is certainly involved. We don't really know how the community of folks who are not students or parents or teachers, but who are stakeholders in the community, how they feel, what their voices are. And the parents, it's important to remember that it's a good thing that parents want to be involved. As principal, it would be easy to feel like you wish they weren't desirous of being involved, I think, in this moment. But I think it's important to kind of keep that at the forefront, that they want to be involved, and that's a good thing. The programs that are at play, the PTA has, it's lost a structure and its relationship with the national PTA, and so they're kind of redeveloping that, and that's kind of making them rethink their issue with the school and school decision making. There are several committees that could already exist. It's likely that there's probably already like a discipline committee or some of the other committees that the PTA has developed, but because they haven't communicated with the administration or others, they may not be aware of those. And then controls for confidentiality, for fair labor practices, and communicating with staff and community, all those things are at play as well. Could this be damaging to stakeholders in the community? Absolutely. The principal is kind of this cog in the middle of, staff and faculty issues and kind of internal publics and then kind of the external publics in this moment. And it's really important for the principal to be able to balance those things well and not to respond defensively or to disenfranchise the faculty in this moment, or it could head south. So important stake in this, the principal, obviously I have an important stake, the PTA chair, faculty, students, PTA members. Have the relevant stakeholders been consulted? I think that's a key issue. No, they've not. Parents weren't consulted, apparently, or they haven't felt consulted, and they've kind of returned the favor by not talking with the faculty and staff or the principal about their new structure, and nobody from the school board or from the community has been involved. There are some things that would be helpful to know. It'd be helpful to know if these committees already exist within the school and maybe just parents aren't involved in them. It would be helpful to know about labor expectations related to the PTA requests and then what specific information they've requested that might affect confidentiality. But there is enough information to make a decision. There are some other details that would help, but I think the bottom line is that as a principal, I have to work harder to create a solution that's going to invite collaboration from parents, students, staff, and the community. And that's clearly, to the perception of these parents, has not been happening. So we've got to find a solution that does that. So here's some options. Option one, I could react defensively and dismiss the parents' new model and just tell them, no, that's not going to work. You should have talked to me, and return to the previous PTA model. There are some members of the staff who might appreciate that. It kind of feels like standing up for them. The fact that the new PTA leadership created this structure without my input, it kind of provides an excuse for dismissing it. The potential consequences of this is that this could really escalate into a standoff that could drive a deeper wedge between parents and the school. And it also really ignores the heart of the matter, and that is that at the end of the day, these are parents who want to be involved and feel like they haven't been given a seat at the table. And so that's really the primary concern, and this doesn't address that. Option two, I can just accept the PTA's proposal in total and encourage the teachers and other staff to support all of the demands that are being made by the PTA. The parents are going to feel heard if I do that. I'll avoid conflict with the PTA But on the other hand, the potential consequences for that are that my staff is likely going to feel disenfranchised, particularly when I start asking them to stay late and to work new nights and things like that that they're being asked to do by the PTA. All these labor practice concerns aren't addressed. And then, as principal, as an administrator, I have a responsibility to use what I have learned about the law to ensure student, staff, and school success academically. And by kind of handing all of that over to the PTA because they've asked for it, I'm actually putting them and the school at risk by kind of giving up my position as a leader rather than trying to influence them and bring them to the table, but still using my knowledge and gifts. And then option 3, I can kind of own my own failures to engage. I can listen and express an openness to parent concerns. And I can encourage parents to be equally open to the ideas, expertise, and voices of the staff, including important concerns related to confidentiality and labor. And then kind of together, the administration and parents and faculty can reimagine the future of the PTA. This attempts to engage parents and staff equally. It values the expertise of staff. It considers those labor and confidentiality issues. Consequences, either side could balk at shared roles. Faculty may not want parents on committees. Parents may not want faculty on committees. And then new PTA leaders may just be offended that we are kind of rejecting their plans without hearing things all the way through. So of these options, option 1 doesn't really address the major issue. Option 2 ignores the faculty and staff and really kind of hands over leadership to parents and gives up the role of an administrator. Option 3 is the one that invites collaboration and invites all voices to the table and asks them to develop a path forward to engage internal and external publics for the success of the school. It does put pressure on the principal to keep both sides feeling heard. So I think best option is option 3. It's the best path forward for the school, and it seeks input from all the stakeholders. So this is likely going to involve developing a team made up of faculty, administration, students, and community members to seek stakeholder feedback to reimagine the structure and roles of the PTA. This team would develop a structure that makes the PTA a touch point for internal and external publics of communication to present in a forum this new PTA plan and seeking feedback from a variety of stakeholders, and then taking that feedback and refining, finalizing, and communicating a final plan for the new PTA. The team would conduct a school needs assessment and perception survey of all key internal and external stakeholders to consider communication mistakes and engagement gaps, and then use the results of that survey to develop a school communication plan that seeks two-way dialogue for stakeholders. I believe that this is the one that does address the concerns of the most stakeholders. It involves kind of everybody getting a seat at the table. Creatively, we're asking people to come together and create the solution. I'm not providing a solution per se in this as much as I'm inviting people to come together and work together to create a solution rather than just kind of giving them a cookie cutter response. So in the beginning, I would acknowledge and apologize for communication and engagement failures. I would explain to the PTA the work they've done is appreciated and impressive, but that there are some legal issues there that we have to be able to find a way around. And so ask them instead to maybe consider being a part of reimagining the PTA and express a desire to improve communication. So given their feedback, I would ask PTA members to imagine making the PTA kind of a communications hub for all stakeholders where staff, parents, students, and community members get to give and receive information. I'd invite them to select some representatives to join a communications commission that would also involve staff, students, and stakeholders to provide a path forward. And then that communications commission would be charged with conducting a needs and perception assessment that invites feedback, developing a school communication plan that involves all the key stakeholders. And then the Communications Commission would present their plan and seek feedback from stakeholders in a variety of settings and forms. They would revise, finalize, and publish their communication plan that includes a reimagined PTA, and they would implement that plan and provide a means for ongoing assessment and refinement going forward. This ends part 1.